What I intended to do was broadcast that ceremony out in LA. So since I can't do that, I'll bring LA back to you. So here we go.
Good morning. My name is Philip. I guess speak in the mic. My name is Philippa Johnson, and on behalf of the University of Southern California, we would like to welcome each and every one of you being here today. It's such an honor to co-host this event with Fathers and Family Coalition collaboration, and to see all of you who support men who work very hard in that field. At USC, we have a fatherhood program, and it's led by Vincent Smith, the gentleman with the red bucket in his hand. And that really is the backbone of our early Head Start program and our Head Start program's fatherhood program. So I just want to acknowledge Vincent, because actually if it wasn't for Vincent and James, we would not have this event here today. At this time, we will have a convocation by Bishop Henry Hearns.
Well, first of all, good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
And I want to thank the Lord for the privilege, Mr. Rodriguez, and you all for allowing me to share this precious moment. I am so honored today to have my baby daughter of 6 children. In fact, she's the baby of all of them. And I feel so honored to be here and her being with me. Let me just give this little prelude and give the prayer. Dr. Martin Luther King made a statement, and I agree with him, that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. But then when I began to think about a father as we lead our way into this invocation, I say that being a father is more than a job. It's more than fame. It's more than an award. Being a father, in my opinion, is miraculous. And one of the reasons why I say it's miraculous is because you keep on living. My next birthday, I'll be 80 years old. And my daughter, at her age, and then their children coming along, I'll still be living while I'm at home. And that's a miracle. So I thank you for the privilege of being able to be here today. And I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, if we gave the flag salute, you'd be standing. So I know one greater than the flag, and that's the Lord Jesus. Our Father, we come to you today thanking you for this wonderful opportunity, and I thank you for the privilege of being here today. I thank you for the heart and spirit that you put in Brother Rodriguez. And he continues to beat the street with or without money, with or without support. He's on the job serving to make sure that fathers know that they have a companion somewhere on planet Earth. God, we thank you for it. Thank you for this day. Thank you for what it represents. And then, Father, I personally thank you for the privilege of being a dad of 6. I thank you that even when I was not so worthy at all, you still allowed me to be a dad, and I thank you for that. Would you bless this ceremony, bless this whole organization, even here at USC. God, we thank you and we give you praise, for it is in the precious name of our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you. You can be seated.
Thank you for that prayer. It was much needed, much appreciated. At this time, I'd like to introduce, and everybody knows him, James C. Rodriguez, CEO and President of Father and Family Coalition of America, and he is a miracle worker, and I think that's why we're all here today.
Well, guess what, Bishop? I got my baby girl here, too. I've been blessed. I've had 2 children go on already, 2 sons. And sometimes I think about one will be 24, probably schooling Kobe Bryant. But then I realize he's in heaven. But my little daughter, Jasmine Rodriguez, if you don't mind standing up for me, little girl, go ahead. You know I embarrass you all the time. That's my heart. And it's good that she travels with me. She's been to the White House. She's been to New York City. She's sat at galas that have been with leaders and an opportunity for her. And I told her when I was keynoting at the Congressional Black Caucus that I had been given these tickets, and Dr. Curry was with me, and Roland Martin from CNN was there. And as I was walking the private VIP area, that I was blessed and anointed to even have a ticket to get in there, because the tickets cost $2,000. That Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee said, come over here, I want to introduce you to someone, Congressman Bobby Scott from Virginia, and then introduced me to Eric Holder. And then all of a sudden, the First Lady walked by. I thought I went to heaven. And I started crying. I started thinking about my grandparents who came from Puerto Rico to make a difference in our lives. And my grandfather brought every one of his brothers over as they served in the World War II, and they were dark Puerto Ricans, and so they didn't understand why they didn't speak English, and they couldn't go into places that said colored only because they were stationed in Georgia, and they didn't understand because they had a language barrier and then a color barrier, and at first they said, but we're going to still serve our country. So it was a great honor, and I was reflecting on them, that how great it is to be a grandson of immigrants who struggled and cleaned up, and my mother who cleaned up after people and earned a PhD and taught at major universities, including Harry Truman College in Chicago, one of our awardees is from. And what an honor it was to be there. And I just started to cry. And I said, wow, God, you just an awesome God. And I told my daughter, and she could be president of the United States. And she said, like Barack Obama? And I said, yeah, you can. So, but today I'm going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to introduce our keynote. I want to talk a little bit about Fathers and Families Coalition. The video didn't work. But I want to start off with something I said yesterday. We did this ceremony yesterday for the Genesis, where the roots of this coalition sprung out of in a rural community in Arizona, Coolidge, Arizona, probably the size of maybe half this, not even a quarter of the size of Lancaster or Bakersfield. So if you can put it in that perspective, not even a tenth of the size, so small. But from that, we've gone to the top of the world. And I started to daydream about a time, and this is for you, those of you who are getting this award. I loved being in the military. I love my friend and hero here, Captain Trent Love, who was part of the rescue mission for the Twin Towers that went down in New York City. But just because the towers and people's lives went down, not all went down. And so he's a warrior. And then he went off to Iraq to fight for our country and lost his soldiers, but still serves. And so my man to my left, I thought about you too yesterday. I was at an ATM machine in this at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what senior citizens are doing out at 4 a.m. But this was on September 12th. And on September 12th, because my mission in the military, I had to be called up for an intelligence program. And I get a tap, and the man says, "Thank you for serving." And in 20 years of military service, at that time I was 18 years of service, no one had ever said thank you. And then I looked at him, and he had a Vietnam hat. And I said, no, thank you for setting the way to be my trailblazer, a standard for me to live up to. And so I thought about you here yesterday. I thought about those in Arizona. You are setting a standard like I'm setting for my daughter, to be leaders, to be servant leaders. In Amos 3:7, I told the man of God and his beautiful wife over there, Pastor Tyler, one of our affiliates, that it says the servant prophet. It doesn't say prophet. It says servant prophet. And so it doesn't mean that you get to be prophetic and have all these gifts and to be on top of the world. You have to serve. And it's clear. And so every knee will bend and every head will bow. And my grandmother taught me that. And so those lessons or what drove me to develop Fathers and Families Coalition, that if we could just serve, we'll make a difference. Money comes and goes. Bishop is right, but although I would like a little love offering, and later on we'll do a little building collection. But mission should not be driven by money. The money will come. Service to others. And so in 1996, when the welfare reform changed, we had an opportunity to make a difference in our state. And we developed a coalition. We didn't know what to call it. But we got the first ever funded grant on welfare recipients, on fatherhood, the first in the nation. And which is sad because Arizona doesn't have that glory of being first on something good. Usually it's something bad. I won't say it because I'm on live stream. And at USC. But we ran this Young Fathers program without direction, just on heart, not skills, not how can we improve services. I had a Korean veteran who I was scared to, and he was the case manager for these fathers. I'm like, if I'm scared of him, I know the fathers are scared of this young father. And we had 98 ladies who were caseworkers and another gentleman, and I realized that we weren't doing right. And we weren't going to be right because we weren't touching the hole in the soul of a lot of men. And a lot of men who've grown up without fathers don't know how to be a father. Or they say, I'll never be like my father, and end up in that trap of being just like their father. Or they'll turn the corners, they'll do great things. But a lot of young ladies have that same hole. And so what we decided was we'll call this Arizona Fathers and Families Coalition. And I knew then, and yesterday my former CEO said, do you remember when I gave you that crystal globe of the world, and I told you were going to go places? In my mind, I already knew that we were going to go international because I knew the issues of father absenteeism was not limited to Coolidge, Phoenix, the South Bronx, Compton, Inglewood. It's not limited to Orange County, San Bernardino County. It's an international issue. And because it's an international issue, it's our issue because we are failing our children as a generation if we don't stop this. I was born in 1960-something, and there were only 3 million children without fathers in the home. And now it's almost 30 million. Something has changed in this generation. So what kind of legacy do we want to leave? And I always felt like we can make a difference. And now, from that idea to write for a grant, I'm here to share with you today that this week we added 2 more affiliates out of Ohio and one out of Chicago, which brings our total count to 57 affiliates around the country. Oh, no, give the matter of fact, if you're an affiliate member right now, I'd like you to raise to your feet. If you represent an organization, bishop, a doctor, if you are part of an affiliate, why don't you raise to your feet? Martin? Because, see, these are warriors. Appreciate you, men and women of God. These are warriors that are doing the work. And then that vision of going global came this year. Because there's a saying, delayed is not denied. So that vision was in 1996. 16 years later, we've got Uganda, the nation of Australia. I don't know how we got far underneath there. Jamaica. They want me to go Kingston, but we go Montego Bay. And Bermuda. All since April. And that's not God. That's just God. And the meaning that it's anointed. And so it's those that you're connected with that increase your anointment. And I believe today the word that's going to come up from our next speaker is not only going to edify you, but it's going to bless you. Because this woman of God, when I met her, and I won't say anything, although I found out I was on a cameo on her TV One show, me and my daughter, so I'm going to talk about royalties later on. But TV One, we'll process that. But I met her, and she came to a community meeting with her brother, and Adam and Chris, if you don't mind waving, Chris in the back, and was just so giving. And the first thing out of her mouth was about God, the church and God in Christ. It wasn't about what she did on court or in front of a television set or in front of playing in those cameo roles or significant roles with Medea, which is funny as anything. You should have put her in jail. But she was just a daughter, concerned about her family, and a sister And that's all I saw at the time. And a loving woman. And then we've had an opportunity to see the few people to go to. And if you don't go to her annual fatherhood programs, I'm going to challenge you, if you're from California, you need to go. And this year was the first opportunity that I had to go with my daughter. And you'll just be blessed. And I sat at the back of a table with some family members that their daughter from Corona, California got an award. And they were just crying. And you may not know that, but they were just flowing tears of joy because you seated her to go to University of San Francisco, and they said, this is the first in our family. So you don't know what impact you're going to make by just being a servant and a servant leader. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the dais a great, phenomenal servant leader. In California, you should just be so proud that she represents you, Judge Mablean Ephriam.
Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
I want to thank Mr. Rodriguez for that, for that wonderful introduction, and it is indeed my pleasure to be here. You'll see me limping a little bit. I'm having some challenges with my knee, getting older and fatter, and it's hurting my knee. So you pray that I will have some discipline in that area, and I'll start eating right and change my nutrition habits again so I can get rid of this problem. I did it before, so I know it's related to nutrition. So I'm working on that. But it's always a pleasure to be with and around Mr. Rodriguez. I don't know, the Lord puts people in your path and he connects you for some reason. And I had no idea, didn't know who this man was. And he asked me to come to that community meeting. And usually when I speak, I get paid. But for some reason, I said yes to James. This is the third time I've said yes to James without pay. And when I was on my way over here, I was like, why I keep doing this? What does this man have on me that I keep doing this without pay? And all I had to think about was the scripture came to me that says, you go into my vineyard and work, and I will repay you. And so I am working because we are united together. I have an organization here called the Mablean Ephriam Foundation. And the mission of the Mablean Ephriam Foundation is to make to build stronger families, to educate our young people, and to financially empower our community. And by doing so, we make better communities. And I am of the opinion that fathers is where we start to make these better communities. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir when I speak to you about the necessity and the importance of fathers in our communities. And it really bothers me because America seems to put more emphasis on mothers than fathers. And we're going even further and further away from that with the advent and the acceptance of same-sex relationships, both two fathers and two mothers. And I don't think that's the way it should be, that it should be a father and a mother. Two people of opposite sex raising the children. Now, I understand and I applaud those who are of the same sex who take in children who are not being parented at all. But I don't say you have two fathers. I say two parents. Not two mothers, but two parents. There is a mother and a father. That's the order in which God gave it to us. And I think that that's the order that should remain, and we should recognize that. No matter how much we do it and we're able to do it, it still takes a man and a woman to produce a child. We haven't gotten to the point where we don't have a man and a woman yet. Still takes that seed, that sperm and egg to produce the child. And the sperm comes from the man, the egg comes from the woman. So still need a man and a woman to produce a child. And I am of the opinion that we need to get more fathers and encourage fathers to take their rightful role as the head of the family, regardless of how you're going to make them the head. But they need to be the head of the family. And so our organization is geared toward that. And we have seminars where we teach men how to be fathers. We teach men to prevent domestic violence, how to deal and live in a relationship without domestic violence. We teach men how to gain custody of their children, because so many men don't take the time to know to get to know their children. They leave it to mama to get to know their children. And when I say get to know their children, their character, their passion, their skills, their strengths, their weaknesses. There are some fathers who a child could be around them all day long, coughing, and they'll never realize that the child has a cold and what to do, or just their little eyes watering. They can't figure out why the child's eyes are watering, and that's because we're not in tune to our children. But fathers need to be in tune and in touch with their children as well as mothers. And I came from a two-parent family, and I understand and recognize the differences, because when you're working together as mother and father, you build stronger children. Where my mother was a little lenient, and she would say, okay, you can go over there and spend the night with this person, spend the night with that person. Daddy said, nope, not my children. They're not spending the night with all these different people. And now when you see the issues of the sexual abuse and the other type of abuse in different homes and different family and friends, 90% of it comes from family and friends, you understand, and I understand my father's concern. He's like, oh no, I don't want to kill nobody. So my children are going to stay at home. And that was that balance. When I went to school every day, and I was number 9 of 10 children, and I went to school, just me and my little sister were together, so it was the two girls going to school together. But because I had 5 brothers ahead of me and a father, when people decided they wanted to mess with me, they thought twice about it. Because they knew that I had a father who they called crazy. But he wasn't crazy, he was just protective of his children. And I felt that every day. I felt that confidence when I walked out of my house. I knew that I was protected. I knew that there was someone there who loved me, who cared about me. I knew there was someone there who was not going to let anyone harm me. And so many of our children today do not have that feeling of protection. They're not sure about that. They will, they're easily entreated by those who will come to them, and they'll prey upon them because they know that they want that feeling of protection and security. So they'll act like they're in love with them, and they'll pretend like they care about them just to gain their favor, and then misuse and abuse them. And we have fathers in the home who are giving our children that, like Mr. Rodriguez is providing for his daughter, who's providing for the daughter, is showing her that love and that affection, and letting her know how beautiful she is and what she deserves, and that she deserves a man to treat her with respect, and then to treat herself with respect and dignity. And then we have fathers who are examples for the sons. We live and we are brought up by example. I look at the animals, how they care for their young, and they keep them under them, and they teach them how to hunt for food. They teach them how to search for food, and they teach them how to survive. And we just send our children out there. But men need to have examples. And when you're working in these organizations, I applaud you all that are here to receive these volunteer service awards, because know that your labor is not in vain. You may not get thanked for it. You may not get recognized for it. I thank Mr. Rodriguez and the president for recognizing you today, but oftentimes you will not be recognized for it. You won't even know the lives that you touch. As he talked about that young lady, I know who he's talking about now, but I had no idea that she was the first in her family to go to college. And so you can't do it looking for recognition and expecting people to praise you. So if you're in it for praise, you might as well get out, because the praise may or may not come. But know that you are making a difference in the lives of somebody. And even if you only touch one life, that's a difference, because that one will spread to the next one and to the next one and to the next one. But our hope is that we're going to touch, I know that you're touching thousands of lives, and that's what we're all working together to try to do. Because when men, as the 100 Black Men slogan say, boys become men, and men do what they see. What they see, they will do. That's their slogan. What they see, they will do. So when they see a man treat a woman with respect and with dignity, that's what they'll model their lives after. When they see a man get up and go to work in the mornings, that's what they'll model their lives after. I was talking to a young lady whose son is now 19 years old, and he just graduated high school, but he's not going to work yet. And she can't seem to get him motivated to go look for a job. And I said to her, the reason you can't get your son motivated to go look for a job, and it's unfortunate and he's going to need some help and some psychological help, is that I have a handkerchief right there. His father didn't go to work. Unfortunately, his father was a drug addict, and he didn't see his father going to work every day. He saw his father coming in and out of the home. You know, one day he's at home. The next month he's in jail from his drug usage. And when he's at home, he's not working. He didn't see his father go to work. You have 2 brothers living in the house with you. They don't get up and go to work. They sit around the house all day long, and they're adults, and they're sitting around the house smoking weed, watching television, playing games, and doing nothing. And now here he is. He's graduated from high school. To him, I've done well. And you have so these examples in front of him say, you don't need to go to school. The women in your life will take care of you because you have taken care of him, his father, your husband, and your brothers. And that's the message that you have sent to him, is that women will take care of you. You don't need to go to school. You don't need to go to work. I said, so what you have to do is change the images that you're putting before your son. You got to get those men out of that house who are not going to work. And you have to say to him, that's what they did. But as for you, not going to happen. Their mother raised them, but I'm your mother. And I can't help what your father did, but you're in the house with me now. And that's not going to be. And you've got to force that child. But what the child really needs is somebody like you. They need a man in their life to be a role model. He needs a man in his life to be a role model. He needs a man, because no matter how much we push, I'm her friend, and we talk to him, I have come to realize that men make the difference in these boys' lives. No matter what we as women say, 9 times out of 10, it only takes them so far. But when they see a man being a man, then they know how to become a man, and they know what responsibility is all about. When they see a man who's not fathering children by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different women, then they understand what responsibility is about, because to them, this is what equals manhood. How many children do you have? But when we take that star away from them and say, that's not what makes you a man. What makes you a man is taking care of your children and being responsible for those children and being there to give them love and financial support and emotional support and being there to play with them and to laugh with them and to teach them how to play different games and just to show them some attention. That's the role of a man. But we need men as role models, and that's where you serve and that's where you come in. So if you think that your service is in vain, I'm here to tell you that it's not. And we need more volunteers in service for the men of America. And what we're doing, we're putting a dent in the problem. We're not going to solve the problem completely, but we're putting a dent in the problem. And it's not our job to solve the problem. And again, I go back to the Bible. I tell everybody my teachings and my training, and most of it comes from personal experience, the Bible, my parents, etc. And I go back to the Bible because we read all these other books and we quote from them. So I'm going to quote from the one that I love. Okay? It's a great book. And I read where it says, one waters, one plants, and God gives the increase. So we may not see the increase because we're not the givers of the increase, but we plant the seeds. Some of us water the seeds, and that's what our job is. And so if you're looking for the increase, that's not your job, and that's not up to you. So, but it will come. And you never know. You may not even see it in your generation. We look at Martin Luther King, all the hard work that he did, and the fights that the struggles that he went through, and the sacrifices that he made. He did not get to see integration. He did not live to see that. He did not go over to this side, but he laid the foundation. He planted the seeds. He watered. And now we reap the increase because of that. And so we may not live to see the fruits of our labor, but it will happen because it's guaranteed that it will happen. So if we continue to do our part, then God will do his. And I want to just applaud all of you. And I'm going to put in a plug because one of the things that the Mablean Ephriam Foundation is doing, as I indicated, we want to talk about building stronger families, and we want fathers and children to have homes. So we're partnering with Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo, if you live here in Los Angeles County, Wells Fargo has a program. And I want each of you, Chris, you have enough to pass out? I want each of you to take one of these flyers and feel free to duplicate and to pass it out. Wells Fargo has a program. They're offering $30,000 in a grant, not a loan, a grant for down payment and closing costs for first-time home buyers. How many of us know somebody who can benefit from a program like that? Okay. So it may be your child. It may be one of the fathers in your program. It may be your cousin. It may be your neighbor. But I want you to inform them about this free seminar that we're putting together with Wells Fargo on November 15th in the Baldwin Hills Plaza in the community room. It's absolutely free, so they can get all of the information about this home purchase and other financial matters that we will be discussing to help them become better fathers, better parents, and then to build better homes in our community. And that's what we are all about. I think that's enough, James? Is that enough? Can't ask for much more for free, can you? No, it's not free. It's not free because it's service to God. And then as James said, even though this was his first year coming to our Father's Day event. It's held on Father's Day each year. You can go on our website, MableanEphriamFoundation.com, and on the flyer, my name is spelled completely. Or you can go on the Huff Awards, HUFAWARDS.com. It's honoring unsung fathers. We honor the everyday fathers. We don't honor the athletes. We don't honor entertainers. We don't honor the politicians. We don't honor anyone in the limelight. We honor everyday fathers of all races who are doing a good job as a father, who have stepped up to the plate and assumed their responsibility fully. Now, they're nominated by a family member, so if you think you qualify, then you ask one of your family members to nominate you. And if you really have to, just write your own essay and nominate yourself and put somebody else's name on it. Sometimes people don't see our value, but that's all right. But we do that, and we start the nomination process in February. The luncheon is always on Father's Day, and its purpose is to highlight the fathers in our community who have accepted their responsibility, thereby encouraging those who come who have not accepted their responsibility to step up to the plate and do what they're supposed to do. And the feedback that I've received is that it's a wonderful event, and the fathers love it. And we want to pay homage and tribute to our fathers because Mother's Day is a big deal, and we just kind of let Father's Day go by the wayside. But I have first-class entertainment. Jennifer Holliday was our entertainer on last year, and Michael Phillips. We have some of our local celebrity stars to come out and give award. We had Vivica Fox and the like, and Omarosa last year. I don't know who we're going to have next year, but it's going to be fun. And the food is plenteous and delicious. So we invite you to come to that on Father's Day. James came this year for the first time, but from the beginning, since we first met, he has sent at least 3 families to the Father's Day luncheon. So again, if you can't come, perhaps you can send someone. Perhaps you know a father who you've been working with who could be nominated, who's made a difference in the lives of his children. Even if it's only recently, even if 5 years ago he was a knucklehead, but now he's gotten the message. You want to encourage him, so maybe you want to nominate someone like that. And that's what James was doing. He sent fathers who were doing well, and he sent one who was struggling with parenthood, but he was encouraged by that luncheon. So perhaps you would like to do the same. And I thank him for the support, and we're working together.
Well, I'm going to do a little something unique for these award ceremonies. So don't, when you hear your name, don't say I got mine and leave, because I'll be disappointed. Let me share a little something too. I'm going to start this in a second, and Ms. Johnson's going to help me out from University. But Judge, yesterday I listened to the words of Martin Javier, the Vice President of Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, and he shared the story of his father saying, you don't have to look for reward when you serve. Every time you do it, it's a brick for your mansion in heaven. So, Judge, you got a huge mansion. And I praise God that you've taken the bricks that I've given you, or lack of, because really to do this, complimentary has been a blessing to Fathers and Families Coalition. And I don't think you remember, but this one organization. I'm going to call all of them up because they have done a lot for us. Volunteers of America, Los Angeles, just your presence when you came that day. And you came in hot pink, all, what's it called, jumpsuits, you know, with this tie. She had the fingernails matching. You look good. She looked good, didn't she? Remember, ladies? And she was just herself, which I appreciate. So that's what we need to have. We need leaders that can work with all people. And so I know you got a mansion in heaven. I started thinking about something that you said, and this is why we need to work with fathers. I went to Pastor Tyler. Now, you think about commitment. I went for free from Phoenix. I drove to Bakersfield. So I got a brick. Not once, twice. So I know how you feel now. But I listened to the bishop talk about the parable about Jonathan and a 5-year-old son always being carried by the mother and the nursemaids. And when it came time to flight, the nursemaid dropped the boy, and the boy became lame. His destiny, because he was carried, was forever changed. So we've got a lot of 40-year-old men who've been carried by their mamas too long. We've got a lot of 20-year-olds. We've got a lot of mama boys that need to learn how to be a man. Because as soon as you can walk, walk. Stop carrying these children because they need to learn how to walk in life. And I'm talking about some older kids as well. So I thought about that as soon as you said this. Now, I'm going to talk a little about these nominations. And there's a lot of people. If you just look up here, just all you got to say is look at God. That should be the first thing you say. Not where's my name at, but look at God. And so I want to share how we did this so that you understand why we did this today. Not many people get a presidential seal to put on their vest, their dress. Someone wore it as a tie tack yesterday. Whatever you want to do. One went in straight tears because we did this yesterday and said, I'll never wear it. It's going in the shadow box along with what I'm going to present today. They said, I can't do that. I can't wear it. And one said, a senior, an elder in our community who's been a civil rights advocate for more than 40 years, said, my president, Barack Obama, my president, Barack Hussein Obama, gave this to me. And I started thinking, well, I'm the one that gave it to you. But okay, if you want to just remove me from the equation, I guess you got pi and radius, so you got area. So I guess area was out. But but for a lot of people, I want you to know that this is a special award because we put all of these awardees through a vetting process with the Points of Light Foundation. It wasn't just let me give a list of names. For each one of you, I had to give a story or a story of your organization that had to be accepted and approved. It wasn't just give some money and pay for these and we'll ship it over to you. Yes, you can certify yourself, but that's not what we did. And quite frankly, we left some people off. And we left off some of our affiliates that think that they deserve it because they just signed up as an affiliate. No, you have to be in service. Because that was the first criteria. Are you in service? With or without Fathers and Families Coalition of America, are you in service? So that started number one. Number two is, was your service seeking a reward? Because that's not in service. That's doing work. Now, there's two different things. I go to a job. I don't know how many of you go to a job. Some of you go to work, and I'm going to pray for you one day that you go to a job. Because I want to go where it's job well done. And some of you go to work, and that's okay. But hopefully one day you'll find a job, and your job is to serve. So what we did is we were blessed to have these White House endorse all of these. You will get a citation, which I'm going to read. There's a lot of people up here. You can look up on the dais. You can see each one is a mother, a daughter, a son, a father, a husband, a wife, a grandfather, a grandmother, leaders. They are unique into their own. And I don't have the time for all of us to speak to each of their contributions. We'll never get out of here. And I will be a Kojic preacher. Ask my daughter. I took her to a Kojic service. What was this, 9:30, praise and worship, and got out at 2 p.m. Pastor Ralph, if you look in his praise glory for Rehoboth Saints Church in God in Christ. Next time, let me know. I was hungry. But it's true. You know it's true. Some of you that you skipped lunch, breakfast, you dying. But each one of you have done phenomenal work for allowing us to be a light. In Matthew, the 5th chapter, it says to be a light on a light stand in the city. And so we can't be a light to address Father absenteeism without the stand. And so it's only because we stand on your shoulders and your backs and your contributions that you do for us, whether you think it's small or not. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to my board of directors. It means a lot to our founding board members. And I'm going to have 4 people speak today, and I asked them to get their comments. When one of them emailed me, he's got 25 minutes worth of speech. I was like, oh my God. But if you can, we're going to have 4 people speak for 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, or 3 to 5 minutes each. And I asked each of them to speak, and then I'm going to go ahead and do these awards for different reasons. And the last isn't the best. You know how you say save the best for last. But it'll go in this order. I'm going to have my sister, which I told her about 20 minutes ago to prepare, because sometimes when you go into battle, you can be Moses with the vision, but you need who out there fighting for you? A Joshua, right? But you need an to be successful. You need an Aaron. So I'm going to ask my if she doesn't mind coming up, Miss Charlene Lewis Meeks, to give a few comments, and then I'm going to ask, we're going to pray on this because I love both these men very much. Right now, everyone be in agreement. We're going to pray for Geraldo Rodriguez and Jeffrey Levering. I don't know how I put these two together to say 3 to 5 minutes. Now, it's human minutes, not bishop, pastoral, rabbi, human minutes. And then I want to end with a man of God who sacrificed opportunity for his life and the trauma that you may not know going to combat. How many of you are veterans in the armed forces here? A few of us? It's if you've ever been deployed or lost some of your friends or your colleagues, it's beyond imagination. And so I know I told them to prepare today when I picked them up at the airport, so I gave them a little bit of notice. But I want Captain Trent Love, an American hero, my brother from the Bronx, to close out in some remarks. And then I'm going to bring up Ms. Johnson, and we're going to recognize in this order all the staff from Volunteers of America Los Angeles will come behind the dais, and we will present you. And if your colleagues are not here, then I will call up all of our organization members, and I will call up Project Impact and their board of directors. I will call up Straight Talk and Cross Christian Church first, because we can't handle it, but the lady's not denied. The envelope got lost, but the presidential's pen did come. We'll recognize them at a later date. And then I will bring up back Judge Mablean and some of our significant individuals to come. Finally, just out of protocol, I don't want you all to leave. I want everyone to come and take I don't know how we're going to fit it, but a group picture, because you should know that you're loved. You are out in the fields. So if my sister can come and address the audience today, I would appreciate. Please welcome Charlene Lewis Meeks. Just like my hair that's in that picture is gone.
Sorry. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's my pleasure to be here, although, as James said, he doesn't give me much notice about doing anything. And that's one of the pleasures of serving. You just have to be ready. And just ask God, give you guidance, and step out and do it. And so I'm stepping out and speaking with you today. It has been an honor to be an officer, a servant, a calligrapher, a babysitter, a family member with the Fathers and Families Coalition of America. Now, I belong to an organization that I spoke with about being an affiliate, and that's the California Institute of Health and Social Services. And our president and founder, Dr. William Marshall, is sitting next to me right now. And so I appreciate the fact that he said, yes, we need to be a part of this organization. And we have a fatherhood program, and we want to expand it, and we want to serve families and communities throughout Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and Lancaster, and the Antelope Valley. And so we are doing just that. But you have to have someone that wants to work with you to make this change. You can be one soldier, but you get in the battle about fatherhood, and it has been a battle. I've been working with the state of California in fatherhood since 1991, and it has been a battle. When you talk to the Department of Corrections, at that time the director of the Department of Corrections, and he didn't understand, well, why? We really don't need to get in fatherhood. I said, well, why don't you just have the prisons look and see how many men in there are fathers? And then come back to me next month when we meet and see if you need to be part of this task force. Well, he sent 3 people the next month because it was that important, and we need to have that type of outreach. So it's just believing in what you're doing and your purpose, and certainly we do that at the California Institute of Health and Social Services. I do it as a member of the board of the Fathers and Families Coalition, and I know all of you here with these wonderful awards that I had the honor of getting in order for you to receive, and I saw the names and said, oh yeah, I know that organization, and I know him, and I know her. You all are well deserving of it. So my words of encouragement would be for you, and particularly you, James, is that you have a unique gift to speak to people, and they hear you, but they hear God through you. To do something, to be called, to do something they wouldn't want to do, but they think about it and then they do it. And that is a wonderful gift. And that's why this organization has grown so quickly and so rapidly in terms of having its membership expand, and people give and smile and care about each other and want to help families. So I want to encourage all of you, step up, be bold, know that you're not alone. You've got affiliates that you can call and ask if you have a question about how to handle a certain situation or a grant that you're applying for. Believe me, we've all applied for grants. We have templates. We can help you. So just call on us. And I just want to thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, James, for the pleasure and honor of working with you.
Thank you. I met Charlene years ago when I had hair, and you can go find a picture and see if you can find me there. I also was about 40 pounds lighter. And the next person I'm going to bring up, I'm going to introduce, but Charlene and I had a disconnect. This is God, because I got an email and it said, is this James Rodriguez? On the subject line. So this usually goes, this is trash, delete. You don't want to open it up. And I opened it up and there was an email from her, because I think almost about 6-7 years had separated since she had moved on from an opportunity in D.C. Then she went to New York and came back to L.A. to her roots. So some people, I had a friend who just died on Wednesday, and she said relationships are like a tree. Some relationships are like a leaf to give you shade and protection and cover, but it's just for a season because they'll wither and blow away at the first sign of a little light storm. Some are like the branches, but they too can only last for a bit of time, because when the heavy storms come, they'll break off. But some relationships have deep planted roots and will be there no matter if it's Hurricane Sandy. They'll sustain the time. And so Charlene has sustained time with me, and those are relationships that you need. And another gentleman who's been a great mentor for mine, and thank God his hair is almost completely white, because if it hadn't been jet black this time, I would have been upset. But Geraldo Rodriguez was at one time the leader for fatherhood in L.A. County. And Los Angeles County, like Fathers and Families Coalition America, was the leader nationally. And then somehow, due to funding and politics that get in the way, it evaporated. Parents' Fair Share just evaporated. And so it was a tragedy, but he still continued doing the work. And so I'm also going to challenge you to let your elected officials know enough is enough. Stop playing politics with families and keep programs like the program that he oversaw sustained, because if you don't sustain it, families won't come and they won't think that you're real. But this gentleman is a real hero, a real champion for fathers and families. And Geraldo Rodriguez, if you go look on there, he had pure jet black hair. He's still the same weight, which bothers me. But I called him to Phoenix, to Mesa, Arizona, to be one of our first presenters. And then my very next call was, hey, I'm starting this to be an agency, join my board of directors. And he said, sure, why not? And that was probably his demise. But he stayed with me over the last 16 years and stayed the course. And so I want to honor and recognize one of our lifetime volunteer servants, Mr. Geraldo Rodriguez, as he shares his remarks to the audience.
Thank you, those are extremely kind words. The first thing I want to share with you is that when I was informed that I was going to receive this award, a volunteer award, the first thought that came to my mind was my grandmother. And you need to understand why. Because there's a little story that I used to go to her home and visit her from time to time, and I would see this certificate that was up on the wall. And what I found out later, it had at the time it was President Reagan's name signed to it. It wasn't until I was much older that I looked at it carefully, and it was an actual original signature. And that's when I learned that I'm not the first to receive the volunteer lifetime achievement. Well, I don't know what it is exactly, but it was my grandmother. My grandmother, I remember my grandmother, so I'm not the first. My grandmother would get up early in the morning. She was in her 60s at the time, 60s, 70s. And she would put on a uniform and she'd go to her job, she called it. And she would go to her job dutifully every day, every morning, put on this uniform, looked like a nurse's uniform. And as I got older, one day I had to ask her, Grandma, where do you go? Where do you go every day? Because I couldn't believe that she was working. She had a job, job, not work. It turns out that she would go to, she would take 3 buses to get to the hospital where she volunteered her time. And I asked her, Grandma, what do you do over there? It says, I take care of the old folks. She was 90-something at the time, and she was recognized for over 30 years of service to that one hospital, and she would get up every morning and do it, day in, day out. I treasure that moment, and I never thought I'd see myself in a similar position. Yes, it's a body of work. I think I would be remiss to think that, as James had said, that we do these things by ourselves. We don't. There are a lot of people that came before me, a lot of people who were in the trenches that that it was not a popular notion to go to government and tell government you needed to put money in fatherhood programs. Charlene sitting over here to my right, oh God, she underplays her role. I think early on we were part of a project, a demonstration, to try to sell to government that we really needed to put our resources in supporting fathers and families. As children, we don't pick the parents we have. We just have them. And I've been blessed. I have my family here with me, my wife, my two of my sons. My daughter is at work at her job, and she couldn't join us, and I'm saddened that she couldn't join us, but I'm real proud of them. They make me who I am. My parents make me who I am as well. And I think all of us need to understand that it does take. I call it a village because they say it takes a village to raise a child. It really is. I go back. I got my gray hairs because I grew up at a time when it wasn't just your immediate family that raised you. It was a neighbor down the street, that would tell your mom, hey, you know what your son is doing, that type of stuff. That's the time period I grew up in an involved community. Some of my friends that are out in the audience as well were neighbors of mine, friends for many, many years. We've known each other. They've been there for my children. So it takes more than just the immediate family and the support system that has to be there. Unfortunately, the people that we worked with, I go back to the early 70s. And I'm not ashamed of saying the years, because I earned these gray hairs. My boss who's out here, Josie, she's in the audience. She may have left. She may have left. Oh no, there she is back there. We were part of an organization that was part of the county's Department of Community and Senior Services. A lot of the centers we manage today are hubs where families go there for human services. They were born out of the riots of the 60s. And part of the center's mantra was to try to support families in need. The Christopher Commission came out back in the early 70s to look at what was happening with families. And it didn't take too much to convince us, people that have been involved in the business, that there was high unemployment in certain areas. They're disenfranchised communities, basically, and that's why people were rioting. They didn't have access to health care. They didn't have adequate transportation, so forth and so on. These centers still exist. I manage those centers for LA County, and soon someone else will manage them because I have to move on myself. But one of my life ambitions, after the work with the county, is to continue this work. It was a worthwhile work we've done over the years. We were one of the pioneers in government to try to bring these services to bear. It was done during a time during Clinton's administration. Shortly thereafter, the state under Charlene Meeks, we were able to continue this project, but as James so aptly stated, government and whether it's private organizations providing services to fathers, or whether it's a government program, there has to be a level of commitment that goes beyond the work that you do. It's about the job, and we're committed. And I hope we can do something to continue this effort in the future. Thank you.
You know what? I got to say something. I love him to death. But one day we had a panel, and he was the moderator. And all of a sudden the panel left because he didn't let them speak one bit. So thank you, Father, for the prayers that you've answered. Now, Geraldo and I go back. I want to share something about him on a personal level. We lost a good friend, John Martinez, who was the champion. And I remember John, he's Puerto Rican like myself, and he said, brother, we could bring black and brown together. And when we bring brown and black together, we're powerful. We become like this. And he said, we can do it. And I said, this crazy Puerto Rican, and he would travel the world, and he was trying to bring fatherhood, because in the black and the Latino community, we're impacted the most. I'm not saying that other communities and other cultures are not, but just an overrepresentation of some of the negative barriers that we have to overcome. And so I think about that, and I realize that the majority of fatherhood programs have less than 5 years experience now. So that means we've become senior. And so I got to listen to my senior in the wisdom. And if you're in LA County, you need to pull him aside and say, how were you successful? Maybe it has to be tweaked for today, but the how still is important and critical. And so he's more valuable than he realizes. And I don't think when I visited him over on Cesar Chavez, remember when I went to your office, and a gentleman who I wish was here, Chuck Adams. And so you need to hold on to this treasure, LA County. And if you're in LA County, grab him, pull him aside since he's going to retire, which is cue for consultant work, and bring him to help you out. Because you've got a resource right here, just as you do in Charlie Meeks. Well, the next gentleman I'm going to introduce, wow, if you have a coin made and minted with your image from any country, you've made it, baby. This man, it's about, what's the value here in America? Like about 5 cents, a penny? On a good day. This gentleman who I'm going to call up in a second, Jeffrey Leving from Chicago, one of our founding board members, is a phenomenal attorney. And an attorney for fathers' rights, but has always been a champion. And anytime I call, he answers. If I say, Jeff, I need you to come out in 118-degree heat in Tucson, Arizona, he comes. Jeff, come meet me in Philadelphia so we can start to edify Philadelphia. He comes. Because he cares about the community and children and families. He's not a father's rights attorney. He's an attorney for children and their well-being. And he's been able to argue in Supreme Court and won the rights back for Elian Gonzalez to go back to Cuba to his father. And this, I don't know, and Judge, I know you used to be an attorney. That's bad if you can argue in the Supreme Court and win. I think they'd throw me out. And I think that this man has been a champion for children and families so long, so underappreciated. And yet he knows President Obama when he was a state senator. And he kind of bragged to me saying, well, I'm having dinner with Barak on Thursday. I'm like, okay, brother. Name dropper. Barak. But Jeff Leving has been a champion and a silent Jacob for me. Anytime I've needed help, he's been there to lift me up and encourage me. And even this year at Elmhurst College with Congressman Danny K. Davis. So please welcome Jeffrey Leving from Chicago, Illinois.
It's an honor to be here, and it was a long flight from Chicago. I'm exhausted. But it's great to be here, and it's an honor to serve the Fathers and Families Coalition of America and to receive this award. This award is very, very important to me, and I deeply appreciate it. James and Fathers and Families are changing the way the world views fathers, and it's very significant because a lot of fathers want to step up to the plate and can't because justice has become a luxury that not everybody could afford. And in 1979, when I became an attorney, my mission was to do everything possible in dispensing justice so it isn't a luxury that only the few and the rich can afford. And it's very difficult. It's been a difficult fight for decades. My work is primarily in matrimonial law, family law. I've handled international child kidnapping cases involving children that have been kidnapped to various countries. One where 2 little boys were kidnapped and taken to Egypt. I've handled a lot of cases involving kidnappings revolving around Mexico and Argentina and Poland. I've also done some criminal defense work, which I don't like doing, and I only get involved in it if I feel compelled. And recently, a father contacted me who was falsely accused and falsely convicted of several felonies, and he had been guilty of only one mistake, hiring an incompetent lawyer. He came to me after the conviction, and I was able to get into court and find a technicality to get the felonies reduced to misdemeanors, so his multiple-year prison sentence would only be hopefully a couple months in the county jail. And he was very sick. While he was in county jail, he was suffering from cirrhosis of the liver, other problems. He was a Vietnam vet, so he was suffering from various illnesses because of his service in Vietnam and because of the way he looked. They were just, my opinion is they were letting him die. They weren't giving him his treatment. And every time I visited him in the county, I saw that he was deteriorating, and it was real clear that he was going to die shortly if he didn't get medical treatment. I was able to get a court order on a Friday, releasing him. And I picked him up before his sentence had ended, and he was very surprised to be walked out of county jail. And then I drove him to Northwestern Hospital, where he stayed for quite some time, and he's now alive. But if he didn't have money or didn't have a free attorney like me who was able to handle this case, he would be deceased now. And there are many people that suffer because they can't afford competent counsel, or they believe they do have competent counsel and do not. And this case reminds me of one of the first cases I ever handled. And again, I don't like doing criminal defense work at all. But I love helping fathers, because to me, reuniting fathers with children really pumps me up in the morning and motivates me to go to court, go to work, and do what I do. But one of the first cases I ever handled, I'll never forget, was a criminal case where I was representing a man, and it actually was 2 in a row. I represented one man who had an argument with his wife, and she took out a butcher knife and stabbed him in the stomach and almost killed him, and he was criminally charged. So that was one of my first cases. My second case was this man was charged with burglary, and there was a co-defendant. Now, I couldn't represent both of them because there was a conflict of interest. I couldn't represent 2 different defendants in the same case. So the co-defendant had a case that was very winnable because he didn't do anything. He didn't commit a crime, and there were no witnesses that would testify falsely and say he did. There were no witnesses. He just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and he looked the wrong way, and he fit a profile. So he was snatched up and arrested. His lawyer pled him guilty, and he went to prison for years, and he didn't commit the crime. I tried the case. Now, my case was more difficult because there were 2 eyewitnesses. The owner of the clothing store who lived across the street, and a Chicago police officer who testified under oath he saw my client commit the crime. Well, I got a not guilty on that case, and I didn't put my client on the stand, and I believe the police officer lied, and I don't know why, but I believe he was sufficiently impeached on cross-examination that the judge did not believe a word he said. But it was a very difficult case. Now, I didn't put my client on the stand because I couldn't understand half of what he was saying. He would talk, I talked to him. Every time I spoke with him, we had arguments because he was using profanity all the time, and I didn't want to hear profanity, and he wasn't very educated. Sometimes I couldn't even understand what he was saying, and I had to use his mother almost as an interpreter, and it was constant stress and fighting before the trial, during the trial, and even after the trial. But I never put him on the stand, and it was a not guilty, and he walked out of there. And what bothered me, he never thanked me, but I didn't want his thanks because I knew he was had psychological issues and was incapable of thanking me. But the attorney who represented the co-defendant, who pled him out and put him in prison, walked up to me and said, "Oh, wow, you did a great job. How did you win that one with 2 eyewitnesses?" I said, "I don't know how I won it. I'd like to know why you pled your client guilty to a crime he probably didn't even commit." And he looked at me and he blew up and he became very hostile. And he said, "I'm not trying a case on a bond slip." What that means is that he didn't get paid a fee. He was working off the bond, because the way it works, especially in Illinois, you have to put, usually you're not going to get out on your own recognizance. You have to put some cash down to walk out. So the cash that his family came up with to get him out on bond wasn't sufficient for this lawyer to try the case. So the guy went to prison for years and didn't even commit a crime. So these are issues that just piss me off and rile me up, and this is why I do what I do. I do stay away from criminal cases because I just don't like them unless somebody's life's at issue or there's a terrible injustice. Most of my work is connecting fathers with children, and I've worked on some horrific cases. I worked on one case where this dad was in tears because he was in love with his wife, and he was in the military and he was overseas, and he thought he had a wonderful relationship. He was very religious, went to church all the time, and his wife was cheating on him and left their 3 children in the care of her boyfriend, and the boyfriend kept those 3 children in a room together and wouldn't let them out for 48 hours, and within that 48 hours he took the youngest, which was a little boy, and in front of his sisters beat the boy to death over 48 hours. And then the Department of Children and Family Services initially placed the surviving siblings in the care of the mother's family, when, as far as I'm concerned, they were part of the cause of this. So I had to go to court for this soldier because he couldn't get an attorney in the military, and there are reasons and there's rules in the military for that. JAG officers, they're the military attorneys, they're not technically allowed to represent soldiers in civilian courts. So this guy had no money, no nothing, couldn't get a lawyer. So I was able to successfully get the case turned around, get him custody of his little girls, and now they're living with him in Fort Benning, and he's no longer overseas. He's not in combat anymore. So I'm very happy about that. But these injustices have to stop. And I just think, what if I didn't represent him? What if he didn't have a lawyer, and those 2 little girls remained in an environment that could have put them at risk? And it's just something that I find very, very, very really offensive to me. I'm only one lawyer, and I do have other lawyers in my firm, and we're doing the best we can. And I know I have to sort of speed this up, but one, I'm very thrilled because I wrote a new book, How to Be a Good Divorced Dad. It's my 3rd book, maybe my last, because I'm not getting any younger. And a lot of what I put in that book I got from conversations with James, because it's sort of a, I'm a litigator and I'm a lawyer, but just from working and knowing James over the years, some of his spirituality and his and some of the work he does, because he's also a mental health professional, I incorporated in my book, and I hope I don't have to pay him royalties or anything. But I'm proud of this book because it's a lot different than any other book I wrote, because it's not very legal. And I'm also honored because the Archdiocese, Cardinal Francis George of the Archdiocese of Chicago, endorsed the book. And also I got a wonderful endorsement from President Obama. And if anybody wants to see it, I have copies of President Obama's endorsement, and I'm very happy of that. And I'm very honored. And also, just so you know, I hate politics just as I hate criminal defense work, and I normally stay out of politics unless I feel it's essential. And I did get involved a little bit in politics because I run a state body in Illinois at the pleasure of the governor to help fathers, which is part-time. And I also sit on President Obama's National Finance Committee, even though I really don't like politics, but I feel that this election is important enough to me that I'm volunteering my time on his National Finance Committee and as a presidential partner with him. And again, I'd like to say thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. If you want to look at my website, I have a website, dadsrights.com, if you want to see what I'm doing. And again, I'd like to thank James. James is a great guy. He just does incredible work, and he is really changing the way the world views dads. And that's important because a boy can't be what he can't see. And in our communities, we're kicking fathers out, and we're using father figures to replace them. And a lot of these boys are gravitating toward gangs and gang leadership for the stability and male leadership they can't have because we're kicking the dads out. And that's why in Chicago there's so much violence. The homicide rate in Chicago is completely out of control, and the solution is hiring more police to arrest our children, when all you have to do is re-engage these dads in relationships with their children, and a lot of this violence, a lot of the drive-bys are going to stop. But that's another problem, and I know I've probably talked way too long, but I'd like to thank everybody, and it's an honor to be here. And James, just keep up the fantastic work because you're a lot younger than me. All right?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to call up Captain Love, and then after his remarks, I'm going to have the staff from Volunteers of America of Los Angeles come up. I'm going to recognize why, so when he's done, you can come up, because I know you're in the audience. Matter of fact, Volunteers of America of Los Angeles over the last 3, 4, 5 years has sent all those staff, so much so I stole one of their employees. I stole her. Her name in Spanish means dove, a symbol of peace, paloma. So she says, am I getting one? I said, with the last name Rodriguez, you're my wife now. But I was Cisneros then. So my wife was a volunteer, an employee of Volunteers of America of Los Angeles, so the staff doesn't like me anymore for taking their paloma. But my daughter loves her stepmother, and I love my wife, and I wish she was here. But this man who's to my left, I love him. I love the fact of his name, Trent Love. I love the fact that he's a kind gentleman. And if you've been in the military, I think I got a little bit more medals than you, brother. But he's decorated. He's notoriously decorated, and he's a hero. And so, if you don't mind, because he's the one that planted this seed for me. He said, James, you should recognize your volunteers and go get certified and go get this presidential nomination for all those who have helped you. And I said, Trent, you crazy. The president's not. And Trent's right. And so it's because of Captain Trent Love, who said, here's what you said, the seed. So he put the seed in my mind, he watered, and then here today you guys get the fruit. So Captain Trent Love, please come to the podium.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for the honor. It's an honor and privilege. I don't know where to start because, but I know it will be short when I do end. I'm going to shoot from the heart, and the head will follow, because I have a lot of things going through my mind at this time. Wow. To start with, and when I think about serving and heroes, I really just consider myself, if anything, a servant, a humble servant, a public servant. So much so that I never even think about it. Just as much as you may see me here in front, well, quite often I'm behind the scenes, just working quietly, or even hanging up stuff, or doing things without looking for any kind of credit, just because it's the right thing to do, just to answer a call to service, and I do so happily. willingly. I serve, I feel in reference to my service, service above self and beyond self. I serve because I want to help the helpless. I want to give power to the powerless, voice to the voiceless, and hope to the hopeless, and hope to inspire many others to do the same. I thank James. I thank everyone here because I consider everyone here family. I really do. And there's much more family than that's present in this room. That's family in the community. There's family in the country. There's family all around the world. And I thank James and everyone here for sharing that vision and gravitating towards that one common thing that we have in answering that call. And I've found my way, just for background information, I found my way being affiliated with this organization and doing work is because I wanted to serve, but I also have a guilty pleasure that, being that I've always been in the background, videotaping and helping in that kind of way, I've had the benefit of getting a first-class education in fatherhood. So, and watching it over and over again and editing and replaying, but we still have to take the actions and walk the walk too, and I hold myself accountable. I still don't think I have it right, but I got a lot of mentors, and I consider James a mentor. I keep taking those steps forward and learning and sharing and asking for help because I still need it, but it makes us all better and connected. So I found my way through working with the organization, helping out, doing videos, doing whatever it took, and I enjoyed it, and it was a guilty pleasure. So much so that I kept coming back. I keep answering the call. I came from New York not too long ago. I was in the Bronx, in Manhattan. I know everything about Hurricane Sandy. I just feel I was blessed to even be able to make it here today. And I'm happy to be here to accept it. But in terms of what this means to me, it means a great deal, especially in terms of fatherhood. I was involved in Iraqi freedom, besides also first responder in 9/11. And I don't even believe I shared this with James. I feel that I got a debt to repay because I have a daughter. And the reason I was able to have her in my life or be there for her birth, which was my one wish, and this happened to be able to see her being born, was during a time, Iraqi Freedom 1 and 2, and it was a combat time. But I was able to make it home at a time where the procedure and the protocol was no one was taking it back unless you got injured or killed or something else. Nothing for something morale's sake. And I didn't want to be the first or only one to go, especially being in officer status. But I had a father figure, and he's a colonel, and he realized how important that was because he's a father. And he gave me that opportunity to see something that was so special and important to me. And I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up, and there's a reason I am getting choked up about it. It's because he was killed in combat. And after I returned, it was hard for me to keep going on about it, and I did because I have a debt to repay and honor him. And I'm working on repaying repaying that opportunity and giving it to others. And all I would have to say is that there's an organization I was speaking to James also about continuing the mission. And there is an organization actually called The Mission Continues, and it's able to allow, to create opportunities to continue to give service, recognize that work, and continue giving. And it never stops. It never really stops. I'm retired. I am retired at a young age, younger than expected, due to certain physical and disabilities with post-traumatic stress. I talk about it now at this point. I'm a little bit further away, but I feel that I'm in a position to help others and keep stepping and getting encouraged. And I remember who I am and where I came from, and I try to remind, and it's good that I had the conversation with James because I remember who I am, where I'm from, where I came from, and our history and honoring those that came before us. So I'm so happy to be here today and share in a moment. I just want to say thank you And I will continue to serve. The mission does continue, not because of an organization or a cliche, but that's what we all have to do. Our mission have to continue because there's a lot of work to still be done. And I also thank James for having an insight to be able to support an initiative with veterans with the vetschatshow, and to be able to take care of or address some of the special needs that our military families are having as they come back, because there's a lot of them coming back, and they're coming back into the families, and they've changed, as so have I. And many people, even my family, doesn't know all of the issues in that moment I might have shared with the family in this room. However, we want to be able to help them, not only veterans, but everybody, in reintegrating. And Maya Angelou said, in terms of a hero, I still, like I said, feel that I'm a public servant. I'm a servant, a humble servant. But a hero is anyone in the world that feels that they can make a difference in the community. And I think everyone here is a hero. And I think the mission should continue, and it will. So I thank everyone today.
Yes. So thank you so much. That is excerpts from the Fathers and Families Coalition of America National Volunteer Service Award. And we're very happy to bring it and rebroadcast it for those that missed it. I want to wish everyone a happy Veterans Day. I want to wish another silent hero that's in the background. Bat is our engineer, and he too is a veteran. And he too, like myself, serves quietly and does his job well and continues his mission. So we want to wish him and his family and recognize them for the work that they do, and so many others. And once again, everybody, this weekend, enjoy Veterans Day. And whether you're a veteran or not, take the time to thank a veteran. Take the time to recognize their service and sacrifice, and enjoy the holiday that it brings. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Vets Chat Show. This is Trent Love signing off, and see you next week.
Nightline Radio. Broadcasting all over the world. Keep